inserted the key, even though my parents had been out of the country for several months. Of course, my sister Deborah had been in to check on things, and she would never have allowed the front door of her own parents' house to squeak. "Honey, we're home," I sang out as I stepped into the foyer. "One of these days somebody is going to answer you when you do that," Madison said as she followed me inside, "and you're going to have a heart attack." "Then it's a good thing you learned CPR," I said. This time I'd had a particular reason for announcing our presence, but Madison didn't know that. "It smells okay," she said, sniffing. "I thought it would be stuffy from being closed up." "Your aunt has been keeping an eye on the place. She must have aired it out. Or somebody had." Normally, when we move into a new place, my teenage daughter and I make a thorough inspection, planning where to put our belongings and checking for items we'll need, like curtains, rugs, and in one memorable instance, a working toilet. This time, we were already familiar with the layout of the old yellow Victorian house, from the comfortably worn living room furniture to the recently renovated downstairs bathroom to the wall of family photos hung in the dining room. After all, I'd grown up in the place. My parents, both tenured English professors, were off on a dual sabbatical, and when they heard I'd landed a job at McQuaid University, they'd offered to let us live at the house. I'd only argued a little bit about their insistence that it be rent-free. It was the second week of September, and I'd been without a job since the spring semester, so my bank account was getting a little lean. Madison and I started bringing in our stuff and emptied the U-Haul trailer attached to my green minivan in fairly short order, partly because we'd done it so many times before, and partially because we didn't really have that much stuff. Moving frequently has that effect. Also, since we'd known the house had plenty of furniture, we'd sold or given away the junkiest of our stuff and were planning to store the rest in the basement. "Why not use the attic?" Madison wanted to know on our third trip down the uneven concrete stairs. "Won't stuff mildew down here?" "There's a dehumidifier, and it's better to climb one flight of steps down than two up," I said. "Besides, there's too much stored up there already." There was one particular thing in the attic that I wasn't going to be talking about. Once everything else was at least in the house, if not put away, we went to see if there was anything edible in the kitchen and found sandwich fixings, fresh fruit, and diet soda in the refrigerator, a loaf of bread in the bread box, and a selection of basic supplies in the cabinet. As with the well-maintained lock, I recognized my sister's handiwork. "It's going to be so cool living near Aunt Deb," Madison said as she reached for ham and mayonnaise. "Fabulous," I said with far less enthusiasm. "Hey, you know I love you best of all, Scarecrow." "Thanks for the reassurance, but that's not the problem. As an only child, you've been spared the experience of having a perfect big sister." Deborah had her own successful business, never carried a balance on her credit cards, kept her car serviced and washed, and each year she had her tax returns sent in by the time the groundhog went looking for its shadow, all of which was in distinct contrast to my lifestyle. True, I'd pleased our parents by following their footsteps into the halls of academe, but being perennially untenured had tainted my image. The whole unwed mother thing might have bothered them too, had they not adored Madison unreservedly. Of course, Deborah claimed that Madison took after her. After we'd eaten sandwiches with apples for dessert and had cleaned up nearly to Deborah's standards, we took the trailer back to the closest U-Haul depot to ensure there were no late charges. When we got back, I assumed we'd continue to unpack, but Madison asked, "Do you mind if I take a ride?" Her bike was always the last thing packed and the first thing unpacked, and not just because of logistics. "I think what you're really wondering is, can I toddle around and figure out where the cool kids hang out?" "Mom, we've been in Pennycross a jillion times. I already know where the cool kids hang out. Or where they would if anybody used the word cool anymore, let alone toddle. Besides which, I have no interest in cool kids. I'm looking for my fellow nerds." "Then you're going to Ray's." The combination comic bookstore and game shop had been there since I was buying X-Men comics and 20-sided dice. Since that just happens to be next to Arturo's, you can bring your tired old mother some ice cream when you come back.